Welcome, everybody, to American Change Agents book discussion on celebrating your family history as American history. My name is Ananda Leek, and I'm here with my dad, Dr. John Leek, and we're super excited to have you here. And those that are watching the replay button, the replay video, we're happy to have you here as well. So today what we're going to do is we're going to start with a land acknowledgement and a libation for our ancestors. We'll talk a little bit about why your family history is American history. And then we'll share some reflections from our journey of writing American Change Agent, a life and legacy of seeking diversity, equality, and inclusion. And then we're going to share some of the ways that we have been honoring our family history as American history. And then we'll have a Q&A period and we'll end. So this flag right here is from the Piscataway Conoy Indian Nation flag. And I hope I said Conoy correctly. And I selected that flag because those of us that are on the live discussion, we're located in the Maryland, DC, and Virginia area. And when we honor Indigenous people in this area, we call on the Piscataway Nation. We have the continent of Africa because everyone comes from Africa. We have Ghanaian and symbols and Dinkra symbols. Our family has the blood of the Akan people running through us. And these symbols represent Sankofa, which is an Akan proverb for go back and get it. And it teaches us to learn from our past in order to move forward. And then we have the world, which is all people, all ethnicities, and honoring them. So take a moment to close your eyes if that feels good. Join me in taking 3 big breaths in. Inhale, and then exhale. Inhale again, and exhale. And then one more big breath. And then out. Right here, right now, as we bring to mind the people of the Piscataway Nation and all other Indigenous people in the Americas and their lives, their contributions. Let's open our hearts with gratitude for everything that they have done, everything that they are continuing to do, that we benefit from as we live and learn and love on their land. Their land has become our land. Taking one big breath in and then out. And then I want to invite you to bring in the presence of your ancestors. If you want to call on their names, go ahead. We have African ancestors, Indigenous Native American ancestors, Asian, European, Latino ancestors.
I want to call in, particularly at this moment, my parents, that's Frederica and John Leonard Leake, and also my grandparents, Henry and Eunice Roberts, and Florida J, and
James Ebert.
James Everett, excuse me, I'm sorry,
Mhm.
uh, who were the closest of the ancestors of which I had the opportunity to witness them, and And I know that a lot of what's in me, I got from them. Ashe.
Ashe.
Before I lose you again, I'd like to call in my great grandparents, Nelson and Betsy Canty, from
Ashe.
Ashe.
I like to call in my mother, Teresa B. Garton Leak, all of the Gartons, Johnsons, Roberts, Thomases, Leaks, Joneses, and any other family members. Ashe.
Ashe.
And for all those that we're thinking of, those that we know, those that we don't know, Ashe.
Ashe.
So you and your family have made and continue to make American history. And how do you do that? We all have done it just by being on this land that we call the United States of America. Every single experience that our ancestors and that we have, every contribution that they've made, that we continue to make, any way that we have played a role in our communities, our organizations, our institutions, and the businesses that we have built or supported, all of that lays a foundation for this nation. The way that we choose to live our lives with love and faith, the lessons that we learn, and the resilience that comes from living, and the resilience that has come from our ancestors, that's become our inheritance. And when I think about how I'm living and what I want to pass on to my descendants, I feel grateful and I feel responsible in a huge way. I want to make sure that I leave this earth in a way that supports them just like my ancestors have done for me. That's not always easy, y'all, given where we are and what we're experiencing in the world. But we are making American history every single day. And we just have to look at that, those personal and family history moments. It all adds up. It all adds up.
Yeah, I also want to just say a word or two about that because um, I'm continuing to realize as I reflect back on my ancestors, and particularly, and we talk a great deal about this in the book, in the first major chapter, where I trace my ancestry. And when I began to get more information, and before we while we were writing the book, we came aware that my great grandfather and his family, with his wife and 14 children, left Hagerstown, Maryland, around 1838, and started their journey toward freedom using the Underground Railroad um, map and whatever to go from Maryland all the way to Canada. And they traveled in every form of travel you can. Of course, a lot of walking. Sometimes they might have gotten in a carriage, and other times they were on a steamboat. But they went 400 miles traveling from Maryland to Pennsylvania through Ohio into Michigan and then across the Detroit River into Canada. And when I had thought about that and think about that in terms of what goes on today, I just can't imagine.
Mm-hmm.
I just I I don't think I could do that. Maybe at that time, maybe I could, but I certainly. So when I think about my life, I have to pretty much conclude that they were some strong people, and and I reflect sometimes on some of what I've done over my lifetime, and I know that I inherited some strong traits that have helped me uh, at this time to do what I have done. Sometimes to have the courage, sometimes to have the work ethic that I think I have. And I know that I've inherited other traits from both sides of my family uh, because they were hardworking people. They were entrepreneurs. They were educators. They were Christian people. So um, I think when others investigate their family history, I think they will find out a lot of things that would explain how and why they behave and operate as they do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If I can share a little of my story, my
Yes.
wife and I have been uh, looking at our ancestors. We joined the ancestry.com, and that provides us with a lot of documentation that we can trace our families both back uh, in history as well as laterally, and find people who are kind of somewhat related to us, or a little further off related to us here and there. Um, but I have been able to trace a lot of my family ancestors who were the people who came over to this country in the first place. They were the immigrants that came from Ireland, a lot of them, from England and Scotland, very many of them, and that's it's a rather large number. So far, I've been able to put together a spreadsheet that has close to 100 people that are my direct ancestors, going back to ninth and 10th uh, grandparents. So it has been an interesting journey that I've taken in that direction as well.
That's
Wow.
powerful stuff, Craig. Wow. Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Did you learn anything that was startling to you in the process? You know, because Ancestry.com has some interesting information.
It does, and that actually I built a tag to go on my data files, in particular to attach to people who had interesting stories.
Hmm.
Certainly, my my ancestors in Michigan, they were farmers, going
Hmm.
back into the 1700s and the early 1800s, and they had very large families. Like you were saying, you said had an ancestor that had 14 children,
Hmm.
and I think some of my farmer families had 11 or 12 children. So they needed all those people to work the farm.
Hmm.
I did find out a couple of interesting people that I'm related to as cousins. I found a connection to General Grant, President Grant, through a Polly Grant was married to a Daniels,
Hmm.
and I also am related to Jeanette Daniels, who founded the Manhattan School of Music.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, wonderful.
So we found some interesting things.
Yeah, that is cool. I love that. I'm always telling people, don't sleep on Ancestry.com because
Mhm.
you will find out some things that you did not know. Uh,
Absolutely.
yeah, we have somebody that's just joining. If you're just joining, thank you for coming. We really appreciate you for being here. We're in the middle of talking about why we wrote this book, American Change Agent, A Life and Legacy of Seeking Diversity, Equality, and Inclusion. So, Dr. John, why did you write the book?
Uh, well, let me start a little bit with uh, it actually started when I decided to write a letter to you about some things that I wanted to tell you about my life. And it wasn't a lengthy thing, but I did it and presented it to you on your birthday, and I gave it to you. Remember well that at lunch at Busboy and Poets on
Mhm.
14th and B, and and we talked about it. And you then said, "Well, uh, maybe you should write something to your sons." And I guess I hadn't thought about it, but naturally, once that she mentioned it, and so I did. And after that, I did take on the idea, the thought of, "Oh, well, maybe I write a bit more because maybe some people might be able to benefit from me talking about it." So that's how it all got started. It has been about 10 to 12 or 13 years in the making. Uh, and for probably the first 7 or 8 years of that, um, I was pretty much writing it by myself. And then Ananda said, "Well, she began to develop a much more interest. She knew what I was doing, and so she said, 'Well, I'd like to be the co-author with you,'
Mhm.
which which has really been an additional marvelous experience to think about it. And I think it's something to some extent unique for a father and a daughter to
Mhm.
co-author a book about, in this instance, about my life, the father. And uh, so there have been lots of lots of benefits from that. And so that's how I got started, and I am truly finding that it has been helpful to a lot of people. A number of people have spoken about and asked me about how did I go or we go about getting the information that we got, and so yeah.
All right. So thank you. I want you to tell us, why did the book start with a chapter on your ancestors entitled "The People I Come From," and then I want you to read from that chapter. So first tell us, why did you want to start the book off with a chapter about your ancestors?
Well, excuse me. I thought it would make sense to set the stage because, and as I did, I also began to find out a lot of why probably I engaged in the lifelong work that I have. So it just made sense that that's the beginning. I needed to be talking about who am I? Well, who am I is based upon the people I come from. And as I got into it, I came to a realization that the people I come from are extremely diverse, but were of all types, and they had struggles, as any folks would have had struggles. And you asked to pick something or two. You have anything particular? You
Yeah, you can start from the beginning of that chapter just to give people a sense of, what the
Sure.
chapter is about. And you can also include the quote, from.
Yeah, I will. And as those of you who have already read the book, you know that we open every chapter with a quote from someone that I have certainly considered was a change agent. And this first quote comes from one of the individuals that I lean very heavily on in terms of my development, and that's Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois. And he said, I believe in pride of race and lineage and self, in pride of self so deep as to scorn injustice to other selves. And so I state that Dr. Du Bois' wisdom reminds me that having a strong understanding of who you are can make you angry at injustices and inequalities. It can also serve as armor and motivation for attacking these issues. And while working at the National Education Association in 1968, I began to realize how race and class generally influenced my life. Let me just stop there because, uh, as the title says, uh, it's a life and legacy of seeking diversity, equality, and inclusion. So, a lot of that additional work that I did starting in 1968 uh, with the NEA, a number of the work assignments, projects, programs that I played a major part of had to do with those three big issues. And and of course, we are now in 2026, and we are dealing with those same issues. And I acknowledge that we have made a lot of progress, but at the same point in time, um, I recognize that we are in some difficult times. I'll stop there.
Thank you. So one of the things that we did while writing the book is check out our African ancestry. And we used a company that's owned by an African American woman here in the DC area called African Ancestry. And we learned after my dad took a DNA test that we carry 98.9 DNA from the Yoruba people of Nigeria and 99.4 DNA from the Akan people of Ghana. So, Dr. John, how did you feel when you learned you were a direct descendant of the Yoruba people and the Akan people?
I guess it's appropriate to say I was blown away. I I didn't have any thoughts that I would have that close a connection to Africa. And the beautiful thing about that has been that about 30 some years ago, um, my family became acquainted with a family from Nigeria who were members of the Yoruba people. And over the 30 years, uh, our families have been so intertwined. My wife and I both spoke and were at the as sponsors of both John and Basse, the mother and father, on their becoming citizens. And later, we became the godparents of all three of their children. And Teresa did a lot of work because she was so heavily involved in music and working with young people. All three, John, the oldest, Shia, the girl of the family, and David, the youngest, have all developed such strong musical skills and talents. And about 2 years ago now, Shia, who's the only one that's gotten married, had her wedding, and I had the opportunity to play a small role in her marriage. And so when I first found out about it, and I went to mass, went to church, and right after church service, I went over to John and I said, "You're not going to believe this." And I told him about the DNA results. And then I said to him, I said, this has been ordained. There is no way that this should have happened. You come from where you came from, and I'm here, and we're now at this church, St. Joseph Church in Largo, Maryland. And our families have become so close and so involved with each other. There are times when I just stop and I just say to myself, wow, how can that happen? But it has. Yeah. So it's you said, what sort of feelings did I have? Yeah, they were strong.
Thank you. So I'm so happy that Craig, you shared what you learned from your Ancestry.com adventures. That's what I like to call them, and your research. Everybody, Ancestry.com, and I'm not paid to say this, Ancestry.com has some really interesting information. And we've been blessed in our family with one of our cousins that Ellen Cook on my mom's side, she has done extensive research and kept up the family trees, even the tree limbs where she's not directly related to. She just enjoys doing it and she's excellent at it. As a result, we knew that we had family that were in Maryland at some point. However, we did not know that we had a direct line to ancestors that used the Underground Railroad until I was online using Ancestry.com because a cousin sent me a bunch of photos one night in October of 2022. And I texted her and said, "Where'd you get these photos from?" And she said, "They're from Ancestry.com." So I went on, and anybody who uses Ancestry.com knows that you can fall down the rabbit hole and spend hours. I fell down the rabbit hole and spent hours, and it was in the wee hours of the morning that I found an obituary that this woman who loves to collect obituaries, interesting obituaries, and she posts them, and it was from the Lansing State Journal. And the headline reads, "Former slave 102 dies at home here. Leonard Leake escaped with family via Underground Railroad." Okay, so I start reading and I'm not buying it at first because I'm like, okay, but then I see my great grandfather's name, Ebert of Gary, Indiana, and I start crying, and it's so early in the morning. I cannot call anybody because everybody's asleep. When I shared this with my dad, that was like, I'm still speechless. But Dr. John, how did you feel when you learned that our ancestors, your great great grandfather, Leonard, well, your great, no, he would have been your great grandfather,
Thank
Leonard, and his parents and siblings escaped using the Underground Railroad from Hagerstown to Amherstburg, Canada, which we know was over 400 miles.
Well, I'll tell you, uh, yeah, I mean, just the mere fact that uh, many people talk about, well, I know that some of my ancestors certainly were slaves. They worked on the plantations and so on and so forth. Uh, but I didn't know anybody on in my line, uh, they could be talking about what their lives were during that period of our country's history. And then to find out, oh yeah, and not that far removed, that were former slaves and escaped uh, in a very difficult manner. So it was one surprising. Uh, it was enlightening, and it was terribly encouraging. Yeah.
We may have another connection there as well. My wife has been reading my mind here. Uh, uh, One of my ancestors was Laura Haviland, who was
Really?
involved in the Underground Railroad through Lenawee County in Michigan, the Adrian area.
Uh-huh.
And this is a book about her life.
Wow.
So she may have been involved, who knows?
You never know,
You
Craig.
never know,
You
Craig. You
never
never
know.
know.
I
No.
mean, you have
They're,
a book on your ancestor.
yeah, they're a Quaker family. So
Mhm.
I have
Yeah.
that's in my background. Several of my ancestors from the Adrian area of Michigan were
Mhm.
Quakers.
Uh-huh.
Where
Uh-huh.
is Adrian in relation to like Flint and Detroit and other major cities?
It is uh, along US 23. It's south. It's near the Ohio border,
Hmm.
Uh-huh.
so it's a bit west of Detroit.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
That would make sense. Mm,
Hmm.
yeah.
Hmm. Wow,
Thank
man,
you.
I'm telling you. What tell your wife thank you for passing the book to you and sharing. This is amazing.
Sure,
Well, when they started talking about that, it made me think of the book.
sure. Made me think of it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just couldn't.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember her name, but thankfully
Hmm.
Sue brought me the book, so I could remember her name.
Yeah, that is, I can't, wow. This is amazing. That's what I mean, y'all. America is a complex place.
Yes, it is.
It has got twists and turns all over the place, but I'm telling you, when we think about just the powerful work our ancestors have done to
Mhm.
make sure that people are free,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
amazing,
Yeah.
amazing, amazing. You can't make this stuff up. That's what I tell people all the time. So we're talking about the resources that we use to write about our ancestors. We've already talked about ancestry.com, um, African ancestry. A couple of the things that we did, and I know a lot of folks have done, and my cousin Ellen did a lot of work with the census, reading the census records. And I know for myself, in trying to get additional information and to confirm like where our ancestors were in Canada, I got the Canadian census and I wanted to be able to track that they were there. Canada first had their census in 1871 and they show up there. We even know where they lived. Um, we have used a couple of different museums. The museum that's listed here, the Amherstburg Freedom Museum, is it used to be an AME church, and that's a part of the Underground Railroad. We don't have documentation that our ancestors were there, but we know because the AME church was the only place in town that people would get help, they more than likely landed there and were able to get support. And the article, the obituary says that that Leonard Leake was a member of the AME church. So it tracks. Um, the Dolman Black Heritage Museum is from Hagerstown, Maryland. And that's where I was able to visit and get information on the church, the Ebenezer AME Church that's based there in Hagerstown, where the founder of the church was known for helping enslaved people escape through the Underground Railroad. There's a brochure here from Hagerstown and the state of Maryland that talks about the Underground Railroad. A lot of information that we included in the book came from that brochure. We also use newspapers. We talked about the Lansing Journal because a large portion of our family came from Indianapolis. The African American newspaper there was really, really, oh, it was a rich source of information for us. And then my dad's grandmother, Eunice and Thomas Roberts, participated in the research for this book called The Negro in the History the Negro, is it the Negro in the history of of Indiana. And
Indiana.
so a lot of information about Terre Haute, where that family, our family was, we pulled from that book. My great grandmother, my father's grandmother, Florida Jones Leake, was a member of Sigma Gamma Rho sorority. Her sister was an honorary member, Lillian Jones Brown, and my mother, Teresa B. Garton Leak, was a member, and I'm a member. So the history book had information about our family. These are just some of the sources that we used to tell our story. And there's more. We're finding more information all the time, especially from Ancestry.com, the newspaper articles that pop up about my great-grandmother, Florida. Um, so how are we honoring our family's history? We have really focused this year on the Underground Railroad aspect of it, and we've been fortunate to do a couple of talks. One occurred in January with the Amherstburg Freedom Museum, and they had us do a virtual Black History series on our family. And that was really powerful because that museum has information on its website about the Leak family. One of the brothers of Leonard Leak, Isaac, married into another family, and there's information about his children and their children's children. So it's an incredible gift. And you can tell I love museums. And then we took a trip to Hagerstown. It was my second time going, but this time in May, my dad and I, my brother and his wife, we traveled to Hagerstown. One, we had a book talk there, and we were also able to visit the Ebenezer AME Church. We're standing in front of a plaque that has a photo of the original church, and I want to stop and ask my dad to share some of his reflections about being at the church and then the book talk in Hagerstown.
This is one of the occasions in which that I know I became quite emotional. As you can see in that picture, the two of us standing there beside the plaque. And all of a sudden, I just realized that we were standing on the very ground that my great-grandfather and his family probably stood very close to that, because they left from right there at that church, that AME church. And it reminded me, or had me thinking about some of the people who have taken the trip to Africa and gone into the area in which that the slaves were walked through on their way onto the ships toward the Middle Passage. And yeah, it was quite emotional. And and as Ananda said, later we did do a book reading there, and it just added a whole nother chapter in this journey that we've been on in the writing of my life story.
Thanks. So I just want to give some examples of how we're continuing to honor our family history as American history. We created a podcast series, a video podcast series called Ask Dr. John. It's 22 episodes, and they talk about, each video talks about an aspect of the book. And so that's one way of sharing, because that, as long as YouTube exists, those videos are available. And we share them online on social media. We share them with different groups. And you can go to anandaleak.com/Dr. John to access those videos. Or you can just look up Ask Dr. John and put in Dr. John F. Leak on YouTube. We have continued to share our family history with family and friends in the media and on social media. We have visited places where our ancestors have lived. We have partnered with cultural organizations and local leadership to host book events. We have an annual family Kwanzaa celebration. We've been celebrating Kwanzaa. This marks our 30th year. And we bring together family and friends to reflect on our ancestors, reflect on what we've done in the past year and how we want to contribute to our communities and our families in the upcoming years. We participate in Juneteenth celebrations, and then for myself, I've been creating artwork with family photos. Anything you want to add, Dr. John?
Only do want to mention what was our most recent book reading event, which was at a facility where individuals, it's like
An assisted living
assisted living facility.
community.
And many of the participants who came down to be a part of the book reading were, of course, very much senior citizens and at different stages of their lives now. And it was really nice to be able to interact and then to have several of them share some of their stories. They got excited and much like what you've done on this, Craig, to share and just kind of reinforce the notion that people are benefiting from us taking the time to write about my life, and so that was a little different kind of an experience. It was a different audience. We've had a number of different types of audiences and so forth, but that was moving. Yeah.
All right. So we're going to open it up for questions and comments and any sharing. I think I have muted you, whoever called on the phone. I think I muted you because we were getting extra feedback. But if you want to unmute yourself, you can. And if you have any questions or comments, or if you want to share, or if you want to explore, you want us to brainstorm with you on how you might find ways to honor your family history as American history, have at us because we're here.
Well, I did want to, share a little more about my time with Dr. Lee. That was
Yes.
an interesting time for all of us. Certainly for you, I didn't realize at the time. I mean, I was only 10 years old or so,
Yeah.
but what a journey you had to come all the way to Michigan and begin working in an all-white elementary school in 1963. That was quite an adventure for you, I'm sure. And I didn't realize, of course, as I said at the time, how difficult that might have been for you. You had a new family, a new son was just born, right? Your first
Yes.
son.
Yep.
I did read the book, so I'm remembering from the book what
That's
what you
right.
said. Uh, Difficult times back then. They were interesting times that we lived through. I did want to also share. I don't know, in your educational as a teacher back then, did you have an occasion to run into someone named Ralph Ariano or
I
Ralph
don't
Ralph Arlano doesn't sound familiar?
No, that it doesn't. No.
Okay, he married into my family back then in 1960, and he was a teacher. He taught at Holmes Junior High, across the street from
Yeah.
Brownell, and
Mhm.
then I think at Northwestern when they built that brand new high school
I
as
see.
well.
Mhm.
And Ananda, one of our neighbors mentioned that he knows you. His
Oh,
name is Tom Finn.
Tom Finn.
He is a he
Oh, T- Tom Finn.
Tom Finn. Yeah, he's a speaker.
Yeah. Yeah. See, we worked together in LCY Cross Associates.
All right, well there you go.
Yeah.
So we have another connection.
Yes.
Wow.
Oh my heavens. Yes. Yeah. Oh, that's Craig. I'm still just trying to take in the fact that it has gone so full cycle to have a student in my first year of teaching
Your first year of
in
teaching.
Flint, Michigan.
Yes.
And because I have to say this, since you mentioned it, me teaching it in the all white school, that was such a big surprise to me because I interviewed in April, I think, for teaching, but I had no idea where I would be assigned. Uh,
Mhm.
and and I guess I pretty much figured I'd be assigned to one of the schools in the center part of Flint, which is where uh, all of the black children were, because out at where Brownell was, which was a very new school, and it was on that northwest side, and that was where a lot of white families had been uh, moving to from leaving the center part of Flint.
Mhm. Yes.
And then when I showed up for the first day, and the realization that I, along with one other black teacher, we were the only blacks that were in the school. And I,
But that was a good experience from my point of view, getting to know somebody
yeah,
in that I had never really encountered before.
right.
That was my first encounter with an adult black person that I could interact with, and
Wow.
I'm glad it was you, Dr. Leake.
Well, I'm happy about that. And
What was he like as a teacher, Craig?
Oh, he was very formal, I would
Mhm,
say.
mhm,
Uh, not real jovial. I guess he was probably a little nervous,
mhm.
but very straightforward. Let me
Okay,
let, let me read to you your comment about my. Let's see.
this is precious. Thank you, Craig.
I have this here. Let's see if I can find the comment. Oh, I don't want to read the grades. Oh, here it is. Fourth report period. You said Craig has improved in his interest and uh, something. I guess I was not paying a lot of attention some of the time. And work, that's it. His interest and work. Signed Leak. So,
oh my.
so
Well,
here we are.
I will say this to you that, um, I- and I said this in the book, I think, that my first 3 or 4 months teaching there, and I was living at the Y downtown,
Yeah.
and I, in a lot of ways, I was glad that I was doing that because I had to do a whole lot of nighttime preparation
Mm.
because it uh, it was my first uh, teaching experience at an elementary level, and in addition, it was a split class, fifth and sixth, and so I had sort of like double preparation.
Oh, of course. Yes.
And I remember for the fifth graders, I had to bone up on Michigan history,
Mm.
and that was brand new. So that every night, whenever I was
Yes.
getting a lesson together, I was doing heavy homework, and and and, and y'all were, for the most part, y'all were a, a good class, very committed to work.
Mhm.
Uh, it wasn't like I had to take you by the hand a whole lot. You already had some good work habits and study habits. So that did make it a little easier. But I'm gonna tell you, I was really working hard to stay ahead of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Good job. I'm
thank you.
glad I'm here to tell you that.
Yeah, I am too.
Wow. This has been so powerful. I want to ask you, Craig, what are you planning to do with all of the information that you're gathering about your family,
That's
if
a good question.
anything?
I did put together a notebook on my mother's family. Her family was the Stanley family and the Kearns family. So she had the most recent immigrant ancestors that came from Ireland in the 1860s
Mm-hmm.
during the potato famine and such.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and also, but her father's family was the Stanley family. I don't know if you remember, there was a Stanley Road up north of Flint that was named for the farm, the Stanley Farm, that was one of the first farms that was established there in that area. So I did put together a notebook using, with the graphics that showed how people
Mm-hmm.
related, but I only went back maybe three generations and then out to the cousins and such. And I never did get around to do that for my Daniels family yet, but I could.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so we need to pass that on to our kids. My wife Sue has done the same thing for her family.
Okay.
She's done a lot of work. As you said, Ananda, we've spent many nights going down rabbit holes in the
Mm-hmm.
ancestry, reading about various people and trying to find how they were connected to us and making
Mm-hmm.
sure we were getting it right.
But sadly, probably no great.
Yeah, but we're not likely to have grandchildren. Our two children have reached the age and point in life when they're probably not going to have their own children. So we'll have to figure out what else we can do with our
Mm-hmm.
information. Certainly they'll be interested in it when they're a little older, like I got interested when I was a little older, but
Mm-hmm.
uh, we'll see what they do with it.
Okay. Yeah. I think it's so powerful. It to hear about, I love hearing about people's family stories. It puts things into perspective too, you know, in terms of where we are right now and things that are happening and not happening. And we know that we have all come from people who have found a way to not just make it through, but to thrive
Hmm.
in the ways that work best for them, wherever they are. And that that brings so much uh, respect and encouragement and inspiration. And also too, like I often say to folks, it's like, look, if they made it, we can make it too.
Mm.
You know, we can make it too.
Well, I do always tell people that I had a very happy, convenient upbringing
Hmm.
uh, in my past, and always had um, a bit of an advantage, and I'm grateful for that. And and not everyone does.
Mm-hmm.
No,
Yeah.
they don't. Yeah.
Yep. It makes you appreciate it. And it also makes you stay open to hearing other people's stories. You know, that's one thing when we did this talk on Thursday at the assisted living center, there was a woman who was in her 90s. She did not look like when she said she was 96, we both were like, what? Um, and she just had tons of stories that she shared. And there was another woman who was just sharing her stories. And you, people just got excited, and it's because they want to share their stories. And people need to hear, they need to hear the stories, and you need to share them in some way, shape, or form. So I encourage y'all to keep getting the information and even to share it locally. You'd be surprised who wants to hear it. I'm just like, okay.
Okay.
You'd be surprised. And even the places where your family is from. I mean, Craig, you got serious. I mean, there's a farm, Stanley Farm, named after your people.
Yeah.
Stanley School. Yeah.
Yeah, the Stanley School. I
There's a
mean,
Stanley Schoolhouse, one room schoolhouse that was built on Stanley Road there, and it's still, believe it or not, it is still up.
mhm,
When they opened up the park in
mhm.
Genesee County, forget what it's called. Is it Centennial?
No.
Okay, but there's a park that they opened up in Genesee County where they put a lot of old artifacts from
Mhm.
the county, and the Stanley School Crossroads Village, that's what it's called. Crossroads
Okay.
Village. And thank you, Sue. And the Stanley Schoolhouse is still up there.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah, you'd be surprised. And I want to say to you, when y'all go on ancestry.com, they're looking for stories about people's ancestors right now. And they just want you to share any unique stories about people. And you got a couple.
Yes, you do. Yes.
You got a couple, my friend. You have a couple
Sure.
and actual living history. Like, I mean, like you can reach out and touch. You can go there and see. Do you still have family in the Flint area?
My two sisters are there. I don't know, Dr. Leak, if you had my sister Amy. She was 2 years behind me, so she would have been in fifth grade when I was
I
in
don't think
seventh.
so because, after my third year at Brownell, uh, they uh, they had this elementary counselor position open up,
Hmm.
and and I was part of that pilot group, and at that point, uh, I was assigned to Scott Elementary, which was on the opposite side
Yeah,
uh, of town, and so I more than likely would not have had
I've
her.
had Amy. Yeah.
Yes. Uh,
Okay, but I do. Yeah, I still have cousins that are still there in Michigan, and we see them on occasion.
mhm.
Yeah, well, I know they will benefit from it. Somebody in that family circle is going to benefit
Yeah,
from y'all's research. So
sure.
don't think it's not going to waste. It's going to touch somebody. And especially, oh, you got to do something about the school and the road. I'm just like, oh my gosh, you can go like
Yeah.
a school. Like
Yeah, yeah, an
that's
old.
huge.
Yeah.
That's huge. That's huge. Well, I want to say thank you all because we have gone way past the time. It's 4:15. It's all good.
Yeah.
This is going to be shared online, and we'll share it again in our newsletter, so you'll see it in a couple days. I really am so grateful that you all were able to participate. And for those that are watching the replay video, please reach out to us. You can go to anandaleak.com/Dr. John to get more information. You can contact me by email. All of our information is online. So share your stories with us. And if you have any questions, and then if you have places where you think that we should come and share our work, let us know. All right. Any final words, Dr. John?
No, I just this has just been a wonderful conversation today, and I just feel so blessed, and like we've been saying, it just keeps unfolding, and the beauty of having you showing up, Craig, and for me to have a reconnecting from literally 1963, my second teaching experience, and the time that we were in Michigan, because we enjoyed the 5 years. In fact, my wife didn't really want us to leave. She liked Flint. She felt like it was a great place to raise a family,
Mhm.
and but the opportunity was a little too much to pass up.
Mhm. Yeah.
All right.
Okay,
Okay.
everybody. Thank you so much. John, if you could stay on, that would be great. I'm going to stop the recording.